What's up, everybody? And welcome to another edition of High Mythology.
Woo!
Yeah, the show where we get higher than the rising tides of the mirror.
You'll find out.
You'll find out. That's actually a very relevant tide, you know.
I know, right? This is
Things
such
keep
a
going this way. We might be walking through rivers like this all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oof. Rubber boots. Tonight, we will be bringing you guys some more Norse tales. I think I want to say volume 10, I believe. Yeah.
Is that how many we've been doing? Holy shit.
Yeah, we've got a lot of Norse tales.
We're almost there, man.
We're almost to Ragnarok, which is also going to be on a t-shirt, Almost Ragnarok. So
That's the next one that we do. Yeah. We're that close. We're that close.
Yeah. So we'll be bringing you guys a slew of stories from the Prose Edda, classic Norse mythology.
Thank you.
Norse mythology.
Good fix.
Yeah. And they're going to be fun, you know, some classic Loki shit, giants and
Classic Thor
such
shit.
what's classic Thor shit.
Classic Odin.
Classic Odin, bro.
Classic giants, classic dwarves.
Classic dwarves. Dwarves are always classic, singing their songs and working about and having sex with Freya. They did that once. Yeah, look it up. It's in an episode. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, without further ado, Kimbo, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
First story out of 4, mind you, because I don't think we talked about that. Thor and Gerard. Loki says,
"Lend me your falcon skin."
Frigg smiled and nodded, and her maidservant Fulla fetched the feather cloak and draped it over Loki's shoulders. And then Loki says,
"That's the trouble. These things so easily won, barely worth winning."
He leered at Frigg and then at Fulla. And with that, he tied on the skin and flew around Felsnir,
I am a
Fenslir, and out the door, which is her hall, by the way. He flew around her hall and then bounced.
Deuces, bitches.
Nice. The Sky Traveler was bored with a string of days in Asgard that unwound without a knot or a twist in them. He headed for Jotunheim, and sometime after he had crossed the Iving, he came to a circle of green fields that he had never seen before. They were enclosed by a jumble of silver and gray rocks that stretched as far as the eye could see. A hall stood there, and Loki swooped and settled on its window ledge. The Sky Traveler peered in and saw a giant and his 2 daughters feasting in the hall. The giant Gerard peered out and saw a handsome hawk sitting on the window ledge.
Look at that sexy ass hawk.
The giant said,
"Oh, fuck that hawk." You just wait. "Oh, hey there, catch that bird and bring it back to me."
Loki's eyes gleamed when one of Gerard's servants came out of the hall. He hopped on top of the wall just out of his reach. Gerard's servants got a foothold on the window ledge and stretched out a hand to snare the hawk. But the Sky Traveler had no intentions of allowing himself to be caught.
"I will shit on you."
That's pretty much. He hopped up the side of the roof until he stood on the top near the chimney hole, and then he gave a mocking screech. He saw no point in flying off until he had forced the giant servant to climb all the way to the steep roof where there were no handholds and the risk of his life.
What a dick. "I could have flown away at any moment. That's always been my plan, but I'll wait here. I'll shit on you while you try to climb up."
Once again, the servant reached out, and Loki thought it was time to take to the air. He spread his wings. He stood poised, but then, to his dismay, Loki found that he was unable to move. His 2 feet were fixed to the thatch like branches of the trunk of a tree, and Loki knew what kind of giant it was that he had to deal with. So the servant grabbed the hawk and brought him to his master, Gerard. Gerard boomed, saying,
"Oh, hey there, buddy. I'll put some jesses on him, and then, I'll feed him in his feathers and stuff. Offer him, mere morsels until he's drained to my hand there."
The servant put the hawk into the giant's cupped hands, and Gerard gasped it and looked at it. Loki's eyes were red and green and subtle. Gerard said to his daughters,
"Oh, yeah, no, I'm totally gonna fuck this hawk." Oh, this is no hawk, though. This is some being in disguise there. Look at his eyes. He's got those weird little human eyes hiding under there.
The giant squeezed the bird in his horny hand and demanded to know.
In his horny hand. I told you he wanted to fuck that bird. Oh, hey there, buddy. Who are you?
Loki said nothing. Gerard squeezed again until Loki felt that he had been molded into one solid mass. He gasped and screeched, but still he said nothing. Gerard said,
"Oh, for me, it's always hunger that opens the mouth there."
Getting up from his seat and striding across the hall, he unlocked a huge chest and thrusted the hawk into it, slammed down the lid and locked it again. For 3 months, Loki sat in darkness. He had nothing to eat. He fouled his own nest. He breathed stale air, and he began to feel extremely sorry for himself. And he became so weak from hunger that he could not call out or loud enough to make himself heard. Or else, if they had heard him, Gerard and his daughters chose to ignore him. At the end of 3 months, Gerard opened the chest and pulled out the hawk. All he said was,
hey, pal, how's it been in there? Has it been a good time? You having a good time there in the little chest I put you in? Just, happy to see your face in long enough?
The hawk blinked and looked around, and Gerard said,
"Oh, I guess it ain't been long enough then, We'll go ahead and put you back in there. I gotta go flip these flapjacks I got cooking on the stove."
The hawk said,
"Loki, goddammit. I'm still a hawk."
Gerard exclaimed.
"Oh, yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense there. That kind of tracks."
He took an even firmer grip on his victim, and the sky traveler looked longingly towards the hall door. But the giant had so much of a firm hold on him for any chance of escape. The giant said,
"Oh, yeah, Loki, right?"
Next one.
"Oh, yeah. Well, Loki, do you want to live longer there?"
Loki listened. Gerard continued to say,
"Oh, I saw a thing on the internet for these pills." "Oh, no, that's different. We can make a bargain here if, you swear an oath that you'll bring Thor over to my house so he can pose for pictures with my daughter and stuff. They're real big fans of the Hemsworth, but tell him leave his hammer and his belt there and, I'll let you live."
When Loki said nothing, Gerard began the terrible squeezing again, and it was plain that he did not mean to stop. So Loki saw that he had no choice but to agree.
"Oh, sorry."
He swore to bring Thor to Gerard's hall, and then Gerard let Loki eat as much as he wanted. The Sky Traveler scowled at Gerard and Jalp and Greep, which are his daughters. He didn't let me get a chance to say that earlier.
Jalp and Greep, that's some name. "Oh, this is my girls here. This is Jalp and her sister Greep. Greep's kind of funny. She only makes a high-pitched squealing sound."
He spread his wings and flew home to Asgard. Thor and Loki had a great liking for each other's company and often traveled together through the 9 worlds. Once they were walking through the rocky uplands to the east of Asgard, and trusting as he was, Thor suspected nothing when Loki said that they needed to travel only a little bit further, across the green meadows springy underfoot, to visit the giant Gerard. Thor said he had never heard of Gerard, and Loki said,
At a certain point, it's like, Thor's just stupid.
He's just got an extra chromosome, okay?
"Yes, Loki, I will go for a walk with you. I see no problems in it. You've only fucked me over 742 times.
We've lived a lifetime.
Yeah, we've lived a lifetime. Oh, yeah, so Loki.
He's rather ugly. But he has 2 hot daughters that you can try to bone. He'd like to meet you, and you'd like to meet them.
Thor puckered his mouth, wishing that he had brought his hammer Mjolnir and his girdle of strength in case things did not turn out too well. Loki said,
What's more, we can stay with Grid tonight. Her door is always open.
Thor liked the sound of that.
Oh, yeah, sounds good, brother.
Loki said,
Odin went in through it. Vidar came out through it.
he said gleefully, raising his eyebrows. Thor kept walking, and before nightfall, the two of them crossed the river Iving, and Grid welcomed them into her hall. Not long after supper, Loki spread out some straw and fell asleep. In the flickering firelight, his expression seemed to change from moment to moment, light and dark, gay and grim. And then Grid said, Hey, handsome, now that Loki is asleep, let me tell you the truth about the rod. Thor looked at the giantess drunkenly, and then Grid said, Listen, the rod has little love for the gods, and even less for the god who killed Hrungnir. Thor exclaimed.
But that was me. I think I was the one who killed Hrungnir. I don't know. I've killed a lot of people in my time.
Grid said sharply, That's what I'm saying. Listen. Thrad is as cunning as a fox. He'll be a worthy enemy, even for you. He will let you walk into his hall and arrange for you to be carried out of it. Thor wished the ailed mist would clear from his head. He kept screwing up his eyes and then opening them wide and rolling them around and around. Grid said, Go if you must, but go well armed. I'll undo my own weapons. I got you back, homie.
Get you back over. Yeah.
Then the giantess gave Thor her belt of strength and her iron gloves and unbreakable staff. Thor thanked her and fell asleep. The next morning, Thor and Loki left Grid's hall and continued their journey. Loki looked at Thor's weapons and wondered what Grid had said to him after he had fallen asleep.
Loki, I may have banged Grid last night.
That's your brother's mother. Thor looked... That's your uncle's mother.
Your uncle's
That's your
mother.
grandma.
Yeah.
Thor looked at Loki and wondered how much he knew about Gerard. After a while, the two gods came to the Vimur, a wide torrent of water and menstrual blood.
It's coming, people.
The base of the river was broken by worn rocks and grazed by more rock just under the surface. It frothered and hissed as it hurried downstream. Thor secured the belt of strength and told Loki to hang on to it. Then he grasped Grid's staff and, putting his weight on it, began to wade across the river. The pebbles were slippery underfoot, and dogfish tickled his ankles, and Thor was soon up to his waist. Loki's head was the only thing that was above the surface.
I got something in my mouth.
By the time the two gods were midstream, Loki had his arms around Thor's neck. The river was breaking over Thor's shoulders, and it seemed to be rising all the time. Thor cursed and shouted out the river, saying,
You cannot stop me on my way to the giants. I am a man who has earned my red wings. However high you rise, I will rise higher. I will rise as high as heaven.
Thor paused to regain his breath and looked upstream into a rocky ravine. And there he saw the cause of their hardship. Gerard's daughter, Jelp, was standing astride the torrent of blood was streaming from her, and it was increasing the depths of the river. Sure, Thor shouted.
That had to be the one that I picked who only makes a high-pitched squeal. I told you she was weird.
I told you she was weird. Okay, that was funny. Thor stooped down, ducked and gorged a rock from the riverbed. He called out,
I think I got some in my mouth. A river must be damned at its source, and I pulled up this giant tampon to do so.
and with the huge strength, he hurled the hunk of rock at Jelp. He aimed well. Jelp was maimed. She howled and dragged herself back to her father's hall.
Told you that's all she does. She howled, but it was no change, really. She was doing that the whole time. Her eyes were looking in two different directions, too.
She was singing about something being shiny?
Yeah. It's a rock.
Just maimed her.
Just maimed that vagina.
Oh my God. Well,
He literally tore it up.
Jesus Christ. She don't need to fucking menstruate anymore. At that moment, the power of the torrent was so great that Thor was swept off his feet, with Loki still clinging to his neck.
I got a lot in my
As he was carried downstream, he grabbed hold of a rowan tree growing in the river, and it held firm in the riverbed. Thor recovered his footing, and from there he was able to move his way into the shallows, and so, at last, on the other far bank. Thor says,
That rowan tree saved our lives.
After a while, the two gods went on their way, and late in the afternoon they reached Gerad's hall. Gerad himself was nowhere about, but their arrival was clearly expected, for the giant servant welcomed them and offered to show them where they would be sleeping. Thor and Loki readily accepted. They were tired and caked with mud and blood after their journey. Then the servant led the gods through the outhouses to a gloomy, rank goat shed. It was furnished with a heap of rotten straw and a single chair. Thor bristled at such an insult. Nevertheless, he said nothing. He thought he would bide his time until he came face to face with Gerard himself. Loki took himself off to wash in the stream that ran past.
Yeast infection.
The stream that ran past Gerard's hall. And Thor sat down in the chair. He clenched his fist around Grid's staff, and then he yawned. His fatigue got the better of his anger, and he began to drowse. When Thor closed his eyes, it was not long before he imagined he was crossing the river Vimir again, losing his foothold, flailing in the bloody water, floating. Thor opened his eyes and at once saw the reason for his dreams. He was indeed floating once more. He was rising in his chair towards the rafters of the goat shed, and was close to being driven against them head first. Thor gripped Grid's staff with both hands, and he raised it and rammed it against the roof tree, and pushed with all of his strength. He thrusted so hard that whatever was beneath him, hoisting him towards the roof, could not resist him and gave way. Thor fell back to the ground with a great crash, and screams shook the sheds. Jelp and Greep, Gerad's two daughters, had been hiding under the chair when Thor first sat in it, and tried to crush him to death. They themselves suffered the fate that they had planned for the thunder god. Thor's massive weight was more than their bone chambers could withstand, and their rib cages were smashed, their backs were broken, and they died in agony.
I just like the word bone chamber. I'm going to start using
It's a bone chamber.
Yeah, so you said this is a, 4 bone chamber, 2 bathroom apartment that's for rent?
It was not long before Loki returned from the stream, and shortly after, the giant servant stood outside the shed and shouted that Gerard was waiting for them. Thor, in the hall, waiting for Thor in the hall, sorry. The servant said, "He has it in his mind to challenge you to a game or two."
They always do that. Like, it's always the thing where they're like, I'm gonna kill that Thor, and as soon as he gets here, we're gonna play 4 games of hopscotch
Right?
and then pick a horse. It's like you just want a friend. You don't actually want to kill Thor. You just want a friend, don't you?
Now we have a gossip contest where we have to figure out who knows the most.
Who knows what? Yeah.
Good shit. Sorry.
That's some good shit. Wow.
Thor needed no further warning.
I need no further warning.
He put on Grid's belt of strength and iron gauntlets, and then he and Loki made their way back through the outhouses to Gerad's hall. Thor was surprised to see that in place of the usual single fires, there was a string of huge furnaces right down the length of the hall. The turf walls glowed, and lofty as it was, the room was rather too warm for comfort. Gerard was waiting for his guests at the far end of the hall, and as soon as one of his servants had closed the door behind the gods, Gerard stepped forward with his hands outstretched. This was not to greet Thor. It was to pick up a pair of tongs Gerard gripped. He gripped a large ball of red-hot iron between the tongs, and he shouted,
Oh, hey there, guys. Welcome.
and aimed the ball straight at Thor. Thor saw it coming. He dropped his staff, raised both of his hands, and caught the red-hot ball with his iron gloves.
Yeah, he did.
He did not
likes
move.
red hot balls on his gloves.
Oh, it matches his beard.
Because his beard has red hot balls on it?
Yep.
Hey! That deserves a... Oh, wrong one. That deserved a
That
drop.
one was for you. His eyes flamed. His eyes flamed. His red beard bristled. Everyone in the hall scrambled under the tables, and Gerard himself quickly stepped back behind one of the hall supports, an iron pillar. Then Thor raised his right hand. The ball began to smoke. He took one step forward and put all of his strength into hurling it down the hall. The ball punched a hole straight through the iron support, and then it passed through the giant Gerard's midriff.
Oh, no, not
It punctured the end of the wall at the lodge and the earth slope outside. Gerard fell backwards. He hissed as if all the venom bottled inside were escaping.
Oh,
And then suddenly he gave a violent jerk, gurgled, and was dead.
Gurgle.
Wow. They wanted to be descriptive.
Somebody flip my flapjack.
Somebody saw that happen.
Yeah.
Thor then picked up Grid's staff and began to lay about him, while Loki took the chance of slipping out the hall unnoticed. The thunder gods smashed the skulls of all the dolts that have waited on Gerard and his daughters. That was that.
That was
Thor
the poor servant.
strode out
He
of the
just
silent
always
hall.
murders too. It's like he did the right thing there, where it's like, I finally caught him. Now to do the godlike thing and murder 5 innocent civilians who are just doing their job.
I know, right? Thor strode out of the silent hall and looked at the jumble of rocks around him. He thought he remembered words about green meadows springing underfoot, and the talk of 2 attractive daughters. Thor shook his head and vowed to settle the score with the two-faced Loki.
Gerd, they say Gerd still calls today.
All right, this next one's going to be mainly Dustin.
Oh, somebody's getting laid tonight.
The Lay of Lord Fafnir.
Lad Fafnir. Lad Fafnir. Lad Fafnir. Vlad Fafnir.
In a farmhouse in Midgard, a gathering of men and women while away a winter evening. They talked and drank, they sewed, and they gossiped and sang. Then one of their number got up from his place and stepped across the flickering fire. Lord Fafnir said a shit ton of words.
A shit ton of...
You'll see where I marked it. Bro.
It's time I took the enchanted stool. I stood and stared into the well of Erd, stared in silence, wondered and pondered for a long while. I listened at the door of the High One's Hall and inside the High One's Hall. Yeah, I know it's creepy, but that's what I did. And this is what I heard.
I thought you said you took a turd to the pool. I was like, what?
I took a big old number 2 while I was swimming in the community pool. Just want to let everybody know.
When you said I thought you said turd. I'm not going to lie. I was like,
I stared into the well of turd. You mean the toilet? I call it the well of turd, and it's mystical.
it's one of the 3 great.
That's how you divine all prophecies from your poop.
That's 90%.
True story. Yeah.
They read it like tea leaves.
They read it like tea leaves.
Gonna have some corn in your future.
You can have some corn. Listen, lad, for sneer, and listen carefully. My advice will help you if you eat it. You'll prosper, and you set prosper store by it. Never give up at night, except to guard your house, and to relieve yourself in the outhouse, and then just stare longingly into that well of poop.
Always protect your balls. Those outhouses aren't always safe.
They are. Never succumb to a witch's sweet words and soft-snapping embraces. She'll cast a spell on you, and you'll lose all delight in meetings and friendship with other men. I mean, you'll be totally pussy whipped.
We call these
in your
trophy
personality.
wives. We call them trophy wives. Be careful, man.
You'll hate the sight of meat. She'll make your ass a vegan. She will. She'll make you a proper vegan. And she'll get you off of the carbs, too, so no more beloved cupcakes.
But you get to fuck her if your dick just happens to work.
Every sweetness will be sour, and you'll take to your bed, bowed down with sorrow. That's right. She's gonna bend you over. Is pretty much what I'm saying. So I hope your
take all your
butthole's
money.
loose. She'll take your butt's virginity. Listen, Lord Fafnir, and listen carefully. If you have to cross the mountains or fjords, make quite sure you take enough food.
Yeah.
Listen, Lord Fafnir, and listen
Don't do
carefully.
what the Donner Party did.
Don't do what the Donner Party. Yeah. Listen carefully. Find a wise man for your friend and take note of his charms for healing. Listen, Lord Fafnir, and you listen carefully. They were really insistent that I listen carefully.
Yep.
Never be the first to strain and break the bonds of friendship. If you cannot tell another man your thoughts, anxiety will begin to eat your heart. Listen, you son of a bitch, Lord Fafnir.
That's a good fucking...
No, yeah.
That was a good one, actually.
Listen carefully. Never waste time on a witless ape. An evil man never gives as much as he gets. Whereas a good man will win you great respect by singing your praises.
Not always.
One man can open his heart to another. That is true friendship. So what if a little butt stuff goes between friends? Nothing is worse than a liar.
Benefits. It's okay.
And no true friend tells you only what you want to hear. Listen, Lord Fafnir, and you listen carefully.
Jesus.
Sorry, I'm not at all. Only make those shoes and spear shafts you mean to use yourself. If a shoe fits badly or a shaft snaps, men will abuse you. True that. Listen, Lord Fafnir, and you listen carefully. If you know of some evil, and sure everyone knows about it, and do not make peace with your enemies. What? Listen, Lord Fafnir, and you listen carefully. To do evil brings no lasting pleasure. To do good will make you glad, and a handy is short-term gratification. Listen!
That's true.
Listen! Lord Fafnir, you listen, you son of a bitch. Don't raise your eyes when the battle is raging, and the sons of men are filled with frenzy. Otherwise, warriors may use spells to snare you. Listen, Lord Fafnir, and listen carefully. If you want to win a woman's love and enjoy her favors, make her
A pair of promises. Make her a pair of promises. A fair promise. And then,
Are you serious?
just like, don't tell her anything else. Just, make the promise. What happens after that is on you. I mean, as long as she doesn't know you broke it.
I mean, Beyonce had it right. If you want it, you should have put a ring on
You
it.
should have put a ring on it.
That's all you gotta
Nobody
do.
loathes what rewards he gets. Listen, Lord Fifnir, and listen carefully. If you love it, you should put a ring on it.
Exactly.
Listen, Lord Fifnir.
Wise words.
And you listen carefully. I was not referring to a penis ring.
That is awesome.
Listen,
What I was
Lord Fifnir, you listen carefully. I tell you to be cautious, but not fearful. Above all, beware of ale and another man's wife, and a thief sharp's wits, because I feel like you're going to accidentally get too drunk and bang a thief's wife someday. Just putting that out there.
It's hard to resist.
Yeah, that's a very specific set of circumstances. Have you seen my future? Listen, Lord Fifnir. Listen carefully. Don't despise the gray-haired singer, for the old are often wise. I still listen to the Rolling Stones, and those guys are like 90. Though they hang with the hides and flap with the pelts and rock with the guts in the wind. I'm pretty sure that's a Grateful Dead song. Shriveled skins frequently offer good advice. Shriveled skin. Old people are nasty, but you should keep them around for information. Listen, Lord Fifnir. Listen carefully. Don't you abuse your guest or show him the door. Be generous to a needy man. But the beam that is raised to admit every guest would have to be a strong one. Put a ring on it. If you love it, open your house and it'll bring you to a bad end. Listen, Lord Fifnir, you motherfucker.
Are you listening?
Well, are you listening? Have you been listening? You should take notes, Lord Fifnir. When you're drinking ale, offset it with the powder of earth, and of course, by that I mean cocaine. When you mix the cocaine with the beer, you can pretty much go all night. As herb cures ale, fire cures sickness. And oak cures
So you
constipation.
just set him on fire.
That's a little known fact.
Is that your cure for alcoholism?
That's your
set 'em
cure
on fire.
for sickness. I've got a cold. What would you prescribe, doctor? I'm going to give you 40 cc's of being burned at the stake, and we're going to see how
We're going to
that...
give you first-degree burns.
We're going to give you first-degree burns. And that should clear up the
That
cold.
should clear up everything.
Or at least it'll make sure you never come back in here with your problems.
You won't feel it again. It's okay. It'll go right through you as if it weren't there.
Yeah, speaking of, oak used the constipation. Use an ear of corn against a witch. Just not to stop the spells
Don't
or
get
anything, but you
confused
just
with the poison
you just
oak,
pull it
though.
out and you just hit her with the ear of
There's
corn.
the poison oak in the butthole way up there
Won't cure constipation.
will not cure constipation.
Right against the rupture. Use the moon against hatred. By that, of course, I mean if someone pisses you off, pull your ass out and show it to them. Smoke a bunch of grass if you got a scab and you're kind of sore or you just want to party. And runes against the sword wound. How does that work for you? They took off. I would hate to go to the doctor this time. Yeah, that guy had a cold and they set him on fire. What happened to you? I got cut with a sword. What did they do? They stuffed me full of rocks with things carved into them. I'm sure it'll work out just fine. I'm like 30% rock now.
The prayer in them is enough power to heal me.
Prayer will. They didn't even close the wound. It's just stuffed full of rocks.
Oh God, is that what it means to take away church and state? To separate? They're just like, we'll pray away all of this. It's okay.
I've got cancer. Well, for $49.99, I'll pray.
Yes.
I'll stuff you full of runes. Only if you got a sword wound, because if you got constipation, I'm sticking oak up your ass. It'll loosen you right up. And also the corn for witchcraft.
For real. That's awesome.
Now the high one is spoken in the hall. Words for the goods of the sons of man. Accursed words for the sons of giant. Hail to the speaker and to him who listens. May whoever learns them prosper because of them. Hail to them who listen.
Well,
Hail to all of them.
hail.
Hail.
The end.
The end. Bam, ba-da-bam, bam, 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 bam.
Did you get all that lot, Fafnir?
That's a lot. Listen, loud Fafnir, and you listen well.
I know, God, him and Odin. Fucking sakes. I'm sorry. Sometimes we just have to get those out of the way. They're just going in order. I'm just going in order.
You listen, and you listen well.
This whole how that show is fucking funny.
That was. It was pretty good.
Otter's Ransom. Not to be confused with Freya's otter.
Don't otters bark.
That's a sea
Is
lion.
that just seals or sea lions?
sea
They're
lion.
all the same, aren't they? You're going to tell me an otter is that
No,
much
they're more of a
different than a sea
squeak.
lion.
They're more like a squeak.
Like Garrot, like Gerd.
Like a... No, God, that sounds like Iago. Are you a parrot?
No,
Dying.
Gerd.
You sound like a pug getting its nails clipped.
That's my daughter Gerd. That's just how she communicates. She's kind of strange.
I'd say she's very weird.
Yeah.
Otter's Ransom. Winter had at last lost its heart. Every day the stallion of Ark and Alsvid rose early to haul the sun's chariot across the sky, and quietly the snow pulled back from the valleys and plains of Midgar. Small choirs of birds sang, and Odin, Loki, and Honir were eager to leave Asgard and resume their exploration of the worlds. Early one morning, the three gods crossed Bifrost. Talking and laughing, they spring-heeled into Midgard. And Odin and Loki had to stretch their legs to keep up with the swift Honir. Suddenly, a late snowstorm assaulted the travelers. They struggled their way through the thick, wet flakes and tangled and danced and spun and flew in every direction till the wild onslaught ended as abruptly as it had begun. The sun boomed through the layers of shapeless cloud, filling it with fierce yellow light. And then there was only an orb of the sun, the expanding acres of pale blue sky and the blue and the green levels of open Midgard. The three gods followed the course of a river towards its head, and in the afternoon they walked up under a waterfall, and they strode into the thunder, through the sprayed diamonds, and the starred into the maelstrom. They are walking.
They're strolling.
Then
Strolling into the maelstrom.
Odin spotted an otter stretched out on the Shreggy bank. Shreggy bank, not 50 paces from them. He pointed it out to Loki and Honir. The otter's eyes were shut. Feeling blessed and rather drowsy in the afternoon sun, it had just begun to eat a salmon that it had caught in the waterfall. Loki pursed his lips, and they bent down and picked up a fist-sized stone. He took aim and threw it as hard as he could at the otter.
Yes.
The stone hit the animal.
Ow! Why you hit me?
Oh, yeah, the stone hit the animal on the head and killed it outright.
Ah, now I'm dead.
Loki says, struggling back to Odin and Honir with the salmon under one arm and the limp otter under the other.
Well then, what do you say to that? 2 for the price of 1.
The three companions were all equally delighted. Loki at his prowess, and Odin and Honir at the prospect of a good meal that evening. They climbed up with this steep bank beside the waterfall and continued on their way up the narrowing river valley. The sun had already been drawn out of sight, and it was halfway too dark when the gods saw a farm only a little way ahead of them. Smoke lifted from its chimney, and they quickened their step and gave thanks for their good fortune. Odin asked the farmer, Friedmir,
Can you give us lodgings for the night? We've no wish for a bed.
Hreidmar says.
I am but a humble farmer. How many of you are there?
Odin replies.
There are 2 of us, I believe, outside, and, we'll pay for our beds and stuff with food. We're in luck today, and there's enough for everyone. Loki just stone cold murdered an otter back there who was sunning himself.
Hermir said,
For my sons as well, for Fafnir and Regin, and for my daughters Laughlin and Lopethead.
Odin says airily.
Well, it's enough for everyone, I believe.
Then Hreidmar nodded without much enthusiasm, and Odin went to the door and called Loki and Honir. Honir says,
Hey, here we are.
Loki says cheerfully,
And here is our supper. I pegged them both with 1 stone. Pegged.
When Hreidmar saw the otter draped under his nose, he stiffened. For a moment, his eyes glazed, and then he turned and walked out of the room. Loki says,
Yeah, what's wrong with him?
Odin shrugs and says,
A cool welcome is better than a cold night, right, fellas?
Honir said,
I'm not sure.
Odin replies,
No, you never are.
Hreidmar walked down the low passage, punching the turf walls, and found Fafnir and Regan. He said,
Oh, well, what do you think? Your brothers are dead. Your brother Otter is dead.
The boys exclaimed, dead, while they leaped up. And Hreidmar continues to say,
Oh, dead. And what else do you think? His murders are our guest for the night. Oh, it is quite a thing. I'm very upset.
Fafnir and Regan were outraged and swore to avenge Otter's death. Hreidmar says,
There are 3 of them and 3 of us, so we'll have to surprise them. Each one must take out 1 when I give the nod. One has a rather fine spear and might be better off without it, and one has strange shoes. He could be better off barefoot. But I am but a humble farmer. What do I know about these things? Nothing harmful about the third. I'll use my magic. I'll chant the spells and weaken them, and then I'll sing a little charm to blind them.
bind.
Oh, I'll bind them too. I'll bind them and I'll blind them with my abilities to sing.
Fafnir and Regan did just as their father said. The 3 of them leaped onto their visitors, and the farmer magician Hreidmar weakened their resistance so that Odin lost his spear Gungnir, and Loki was relieved of his sky shoes. When the 3 gods laid on the ground, bound hand and foot, Hreidmar shouted,
Just imagine him singing an actual song to weaken. He's just sitting back, living in the Pizza Hut, California. My son, you've killed my son. I'll kill you for vengeance. You've killed my son.
Odin asked,
Well, what the hell does he mean?
Fafnir says, Otter was our brother. And Regan says,
Our finest of fishermen.
Fafnir says,
He had the likeness of an otter by day, and all day he lived in the river beside the riverbed. And he brought his prey to our father and a supply of fresh fish every day. Oh, our brother.
Odin says,
Oh, well. Well, that's kind of shitty. I thought we didn't know that. Now I feel like an ass. I mean, I was kind of parading around here with his corpse, doing a little dance number and things. I was about to cut him open and wear him. Wouldn't have that been awkward? Like, I swear, we didn't know this. If we had, Loki would have never killed him. I mean, there's like a 30% chance Loki would have killed him.
Hreidmar says,
Daddy's dead.
Odin says again,
We didn't know this. Do you think we'd have come straight to his father's farm? You must at least give us a chance to pay a ransom before killing us.
Hreidmar looked down at his 3 visitors and said nothing. Odin says,
I speak for the 3 of us. We'll pay you as much as you demand.
Hreidmar thought for a while and then said,
I am but a humble farmer, but I assume that would be fair. If you were to keep your word, you must swear an oath, and if you break it, you will have to pay with your head.
Then the 3 companions swore that they would raise as much as Hreidmar asked. The magician says, turning to his sons,
All right, where is your sisters? Have them come flay your brother and bring me his skin again.
Fafnir and Rain obeyed their father, and then Hreidmar laid out Otter's handsome skin before the fire. First you must fill... Oh, sorry. What's his name says?
It's not weird. He died in otter form. So what if we eat my child? First, you... just gets me that I just trying to get like a dead otter.
Yeah.
After freaking... They killed my son. What should we do with his body? I don't know. Skin him. Maybe we'll cook him up. Fry some of it. I hear otters...
Is that cannibalism at that point?
Exactly. First, you must fill this with red gold. Then you must cover it with red gold. Into the bargain. What?
Mm-hmm. Cover it, fill it with as much red gold, and then dip it like a golden statue.
Oh, like
Almost.
an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
It must be wholly covered. That is the ransom for the death of my son.
Odin says,
Well, okay, I think we can do it.
and he rolled over until he was close enough to Loki to whisper in his ear. Loki listened carefully and then said,
Let me go for the gold. Let me go and hold the other 2 as hostages.
So Hreidmar untied Loki's bonds, and with a snatch of a look and a jeering laugh that left Hreidmar and his sons and even Honir uneasy, Loki threw open the door and ran out into the night.
I shit in the corner.
God, it's like my cat.
I shit on your bed before I left. Ah.
Thanks, Amber. I mean, Loki.
Yeah.
I mean...
I mean...
Loki had left his sky shoes in the care of the magician, and in any event, he was in no great hurry. He knew Hreidmar had nothing to gain by killing Odin and Honir, and everything to win by waiting for his return with the red gold. And he was not especially averse to the thought of mighty Odin and the long-legged Honir lying for a while, bound hand and foot. He dwaddled all the way across Midgard to the island of Heasley. There, Loki visited Aegir and Ran in their hall in the seabed. Loki says to Ran,
The gods are in danger. Odin himself lies bound, and Honir, and only your net can save them. Odin and Honir.
the wife of the sea god opened her cold, pale eyes very wide. Loki says,
Lend me your drowning net. I can use it and not snare men, but to save gods.
when Loki had talked Ran into parting with her net, he left the hall beneath the waves quickly in case she changed her mind, and headed for the world of the dark elves. Loki picked his way down a chain of dripping tunnels and through a maze of Twilight chambers. Sorry, I haven't seen Twilight in a minute, so I was like, let's twiddle it.
Twilight Breaking Dawn Chambers.
Until he came to a massive cavern.
So big.
Its roofs were supported by columns of rock thicker than tree trunks, and its corners were still and dark. A little light, however, flickered in the middle of the cavern from a vertical shaft in the roof, and showed Loki what he had come to see. A large silent pool filled with water that seemed to spring from nowhere and flowed nowhere. Loki sprang out Rand's finely meshed net and cast it into the pool. He dragged it and pulled it up, and there, furiously lashing and writhing, was a large pike snared in the net. Avoiding its nasty teeth and equally nasty looks in its yellow eyes, Loki took hold of it, and he said,
"First, you'll change shape."
And he gave the pike a horrible shaking.
Shake a pike.
The phrase "change shape" echoed through the cavern. Change shape,
Change shape.
Then there was no pike, but a dwarf, and Vari in Rand's dripping net. Loki disentangled him, keeping a firm hold all the while on the back of his neck. And Vari whined.
Hey, what do you want?
Loki says,
"What I want is all your gold. Otherwise, I'll wring you out like a piece of washing. All of your gold. And I will take your wristwatch, too. I'm getting into this mugging thing. What size are your shoes?"
And Vari shuddered. He led Loki out of the echoing chamber and down the twisting passage into his smithy. It was hot and smoky, but well fitted out, and it's well stocked with gold and gleamed in the firelight. The dwarf spread out his hands and shrugs. Loki says, kicking a golden nugget.
"Gather it up."
Andavari scrambled around, cursing and moaning. He made a pile of discs and chips and splinters and small bars and red gold, all of red gold, of objects already made and objects half made. Loki looked at the stack and was well satisfied and said,
"Is that all?"
Andavari said nothing. He stowed the gold into 2 old sacks that filled them both. Then, grunting, he dragged them across the smithy and stood with them in front of Loki. Loki says, while pointing at the dwarf's closest right hand,
"What about that ring? I saw you hide it, dwarf."
Andavari shook his head. Loki says,
"Put it in the sack."
Andavari begs.
Hey, let me keep it there. It's just this ring.
Loki says,
"Put it in the sack, dwarf."
the dwarf pleaded.
Hey, let me keep this. This one at least. I'll be able to make more gold again.
Loki says,
"I have no need for more, and I'm going to strip you to the bone, you pike."
He stepped forward and, knocking aside one sack, forced open Andvari's fist and seized the little twisted ring. It was marvelously wrought, and Loki slipped it onto his own little finger. He said,
"What is not freely given must be taken by force."
Andvari replies.
Hey, another one's given a freely here.
Loki shouldered the sacks and turned towards the door of the smithy. The dwarf yelled,
Hey, take that ring, my curse on that ring and that gold too. It'll destroy whoever owns it.
Loki turned around and faced Andvari and said,
"So much the better."
Loki says,
Hey, no one will enjoy with my wealth.
Oh, no, Andvari shouted, sorry.
Hey, yes, it's me.
No one would win. Okay. And then Loki says,
And then Loki says, Hey, if I repeated your words.
No, Loki.
If I repeat your words to those about to get this gold, then Anvari, your curse will come to pass.
And with that, Loki turned around again and with oaths and spells in his ears made his way out of the world of the Dark Elves and into Midgard. Odin says,
You surely took your time.
Honir said nothing. He looked rather fearful. Loki says,
Hard won and well won.
He dumped the sacks of red gold in front of his companions, and he whispered,
And what do you say to this?
Showing Odin the twisted finger ring which he had wrenched from Andvari. Odin blinked and marveled at its subtle beauty and said,
Oh, give me the shiny, please.
You're sure his eyes aren't going different places? Hreidmar walked into the room, followed by his 2 sons and 2 daughters. He nodded, and Fafnir and Rain cut Odin and Honir free from their bonds. Slowly and stiffly, the 2 gods stood up. They flexed their muscles and they rubbed their hands together. They looked like their chafed wrists. They looked at their chafed wrists and ankles. And Hridmar says,
Well then,
Loki says,
you must stuff the skin yourself, or you'll never be satisfied.
he emptied 1 sack onto the ground, and the magician sewed piece after piece inside of Otter's skin. He filled it so that it was plump and tunt, bursting from top to tail. Loki says,
Now we'll cover it completely.
and he opens the second sack and pouring another mound of metal over the marl floor, while Honir held Otter's skin upright, snout down.
Now down.
Odin and Loki heaped the gold around it. They built Otter a burrow of gold. And Odin says with satisfaction of well done, he says,
So, come and look for yourself, Hridmar. We've covered the skin completely.
the magician walked around and around the sack. He walked around and around again. He examined the gold inch by inch, and he said,
No, here's a whisker. This must be covered and hidden. Otherwise, I'll hold that you've broken your oath. And that will be the end of our understanding.
Loki looked at Odin, and Odin looked at the twisted ring on his little finger. He sniffed and drew it off and placed it over a single whisker showing. Odin said loudly,
No, we've paid Earth ransom in full.
Hridmir says,
Yes, you have indeed.
still rather unsteady on his feet, Odin lurched across the room to where his spear Gungnir was propped up against the corner. And Loki fell on his sky shoes and at once put them on. A sense of their own strength surged within them, and they looked at Hrimir and Fafnir and Ringen with no great liking. Loki says,
Listen carefully. That ring and all that gold was made by the dwarf Andvari. I only wrestled it from him with his curse.
Loki paused and then continues to say,
And what he said, I say. What he said will hold.
Loki's voice was low and compelling, and Loki says,
Take that ring, my curse on that ring and that gold. It will destroy whoever owns it.
Odin looked at Loki. His eyes glittered,
Whoa.
and Loki smiled crookedly. Then Honir took 1 step and was at their side. The 3 companions stepped out of the farmhouse into the welcoming spring air.
Now deuces, bitches. Enjoy the upper decker I left in your bathroom.
Woo! Well, we got one more story.
We got one more story to go here.
We do.
We do. Somebody else is getting laid tonight. Alvis and the Chipmunks.
I'm not so sure. The Lay of Alvis. Alvis tramped all the way from the world of the dark elves to Asgard. He hurried towards Blisknir, and in the hall he saw the god he was looking for, but he did not recognize him. The dwarf says bluntly,
I've come for my bride. It's taken long enough to get here. I must say, and now it's high time that they had grace her new home. Everyone will say, can't wait for your wedding night, but I don't mean to hang around here any longer than I have to.
Thor says,
Ah, brother, who are you? Seriously, I don't remember you. What should I say? What the hell are you? Why is your nose so pale? Do you sleep in a grave mound and keep a corpse company?
Thor considered Alvis and continues to say,
You look like a kind of monster. You certainly won't be the one to marry a turd. You'd a third. You'd probably marry a turd, though, if it would consent.
The dwarf drew himself up to his full height, such as it was, and says,
I am Alvis, and there's nothing I don't know. I live way down under a hill. My home is a cavern down made out of rock.
Then the dwarf testedly brushed aside this talk with a sweep of his hand and continues to say,
I have come to claim the third. The agreed price for my work and for my mini weapons. Let the gods not break their oath.
Thor says indignantly,
Oh, I'll fucking break it. I know nothing of this promise. I have no problem breaking oaths and promises, brother. I once killed an entire household full of just working people who were just there doing a regular job 9 to 5, and I just murdered them.
He stalked down the hall and then called out,
Father has the last word as to whom his daughter marries. He's up to him, and him alone.
Alvis demanded,
So, who are you then, hero? And what kind of right do you think you have over my radiant pride? You are nothing but some vagabond, seldom noticed, little known.
The corners of Alvis's mouth twitched, and he asked,
Which woman had to be brought with the rings before she would bear you?
Thor shouted,
I was in a Marvel movie, goddammit.
oh, he says
Aye.
very slowly, as his eyes flashed so that Alvis began to quail.
Quail. I'm Thor the Hurler. I am the wide wanderer, the girth dong. I am Odin's son. You'll never win and marry my daughter, not if I can help it.
Alvis says,
Ah, well.
We'll soon see when your good will and your consent. I long for your Snow White daughter, and I will struggle for her.
Thor says,
Ah, wise guest. I won't be able to stand in the way of your love. If you can answer whatever I ask you about all the worlds, that is. Tell me, Alvis, you're the dwarf who knows everything about our fates and fortunes. What is the name of the land that stretches all around us in each and every world?
the dwarf replies,
Ah, most men call it your mother.
Ah, sick burn. the earth, Aethius say field, and make the Vanir say the vase. The giant's name is Evergreen, and the elves call it Grower, but not Shower. It is a chode. The most holy gods call it Clay.
Thor shouts,
Well, tell me, Alvis, you're the dwarf who knows everything about our fate and fortune and whatnot. What's the fucking name of the sky child of the ocean that we can all see? I was like, Sky Child of the Ocean? That is the most hippie parrot name you could have. And then our son, his name is Sky Child of the Ocean. We're going to raise him exclusively on sprouts
and marshmallows.
and marshmallows.
That we can all see in each and every world.
The men call it...
Yeah, the dwarf says, sorry.
The gods say the height, and the Vanir say the wind, and the Viva, the giants name it High Home, the elves, Fair Roof, and the dwarves call it the Dripping Hole because dwarves don't know how to fix a fucking roof.
Thor shouts,
Tell me, Alvis, you motherfucker, you little son of a bitch who likes to think you're all hoopty-toopty. And where I stick my hammer. What is the name for the moon that we can all see in each and every world?
the dwarf replies,
Ah, men call it the moon, but the gods say Mach, sun. It's also known in Hell as the Whirling Wheel. The giants named it Rapid Traveler. The dwarves clear me off as the elves time teller. You stick your hammer in your mom's butthole.
Thor shouts,
Oh, fucking sick burn, brother. Sick burn. Tell me, Alvis. You're the dwarf who knows everything about our fates and fortunes and all the fucking fancy stuff. What is the name for the sun that we can all see in each and every world? Also, how often do I bleach my asshole?
The dwarf replies,
Well, men call it the sun. The gods say it's the blonde eye. And the dwarves, oh no, that's your butthole. The gods say orb. The dwarves call it Derek's delight.
Derek.
No, that is also your asshole. The giants named it F-Bright. The elves call it Fairwheel, and the sons of God all growing. And you bleach your asshole every 30 to 40 days. Your wife helps you, and that is no secret. You put it, it's up on your TikTok page where we can all see.
That's how I learned how to do mine.
You're not supposed to do it online.
Thor shouts,
So you're a follower. Great stuff, great stuff. Be sure to tell your friends. And also, tell me, Alvis, you motherfucking little piece of shit with your fucking fancy little hat and your little hoity-toity shoes, Mr. I'm better than you. What's the name for the clouds that hold the rain in each and every world?
the dwarf says.
Also, what's my biggest fantasy?
Oh, yeah. The dwarf says,
Men call them clouds. The gods say chance of showers. 30%. The Vanir say wind kites. And the giants name them, I hope it rains. The elves say weather might. And the hell, they are known as helmets of the penis. And your biggest fantasy is to have your wife dressed up as your mom while you are getting fucked by one of these clouds. And she judges you.
Thor shouts,
Well, that was very on the nose. I really didn't expect that. But, tell me, Alvis, if you're the dwarf who knows stuff about stuff, what's the name of the wind that rages far and wide in each and every world? And also, what is my motto?
The dwarf replies,
It's called the wind, and the gods say wherever the most holy gods call the neighbors. Maybe the giants call it Wailer, roaring traveler, and hell is known as a blistering burst. And your motto is same as mine: to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of the women.
Thor yells,
Brother, sick Conan reference. Now tell me, Alvis, you motherfucker with your fancy little hat and your little shoes and your little pants on that you walk around town with your pants and everyone says, ooh, look at the guy wearing pants. What is the name for the stilliness? Stilliness. The settling peace in each and every world.
The dwarf replies,
Oh, well, men call that calm. The gods say the quiet. The Vanir say the winds hush. The giants say it's the relaxing cigarette right after they just porked your mother because she's a whore. The elves, they call it day's lull, and the dwarves say day's refuge.
I like how you're still using Thor's voice.
I used the wrong one. I used the wrong voice. I apologize.
So Thor shouts,
Tell me, Alvis, how you sounded so much like me, you motherfucker.
Are you a parrot?
Are you a parrot? The parents don't even say. Parents sound like themselves. What's the name for the sea on which men sail in each and every world? And which sea is my favorite?
The dwarf replies,
Men call it the sea. The gods say smooth lying, and the Vanir say waves. The giants name it Eelholm, and the elves call it drinky stuff. And the dwarves call it the deep. And your favorite sea has to either be the puss sea or seamen. Because you do take a lot of the semen in your pussy.
that is true.
God damn you, Alvis, with your sick fucking burns. You with your fucking Yelp account where you talk about fancy restaurants, like maybe I want to eat somewhere fancy and now I don't feel special about it. What is the name for fire that burns for men in each and every world?
The dwarf replies,
The men call it fire, the gods say it is flame, and the Vanir say wave. The giants have named it Hangibiter, and the dwarves say burner. In hell, it's also known as hasty.
Thor shouts.
Ah. No sick burn for you there, Elvis. So tell me, you little trollop, you, what is the name of the wood that grows for men in each and every world?
The dwarf replies.
Oh, well, most men call that the penis, and it's it's on you if it's growing for men or women. You kind of let it grow however you want it to grow. Oh, but the men, that wood. The men call them trees. The gods say mane of the field, and then the hairlets known as the seaweed of the hills. The giants name it fuel, and the old fair limb, the Vanir, call it wand.
Thor shouts.
Jesus Christ, Elvis, you motherfucker, I'm starting to like you now. What is the name for Night Daughter of Naviri in each and every world?
The dwarf replies.
Well, men call it the night, the gods say darkness, and the most holy gods say hood.
I'm in the hood, motherfucker.
Jesus.
The giants named it Lightless, and the elves sleeping sootheth. And the dwarves say, Viva of dreams.
Thor shouts.
So Elvis, tell me, with your fates and fortunes and shit, what's the name for seed sown by men in each and every world?
The dwarf replies.
Well, the men call it splooge. The gods say semen. The Vanir say sperm. The giants name it which is kind of like sperm. The elves call it spunk. And in hell, it's known as a morning smoothie.
I mean, all of them could have been like that. Grain, drink, yeast,
Yeah.
edible.
Edible. The edible, yeah. They
Shouts.
name it man yogurt. Creme de la Edgar.
So Greek yogurt? Is that what Greek yogurt
Flurm.
really is?
Yeah, that's what Greek yogurt is. It's a bunch of
little bit
Greek
semen,
guys.
A little bit of Greek in everything. Jeez.
Hey.
Do not stick this in your vagina. You could become impregnated.
Do not stick this in your butt,
No,
because you
it's
could
not the
also
time.
become impregnated.
Science.
Yeah.
Thor shouts.
Tell me, Elvis, you fucking dwarf who knows everything about her fate and fortune. What is the name of the ale which men quaff in each and every world?
The dwarf replies.
Ah, the men call it ale. The gods say beer,
And the Vanir say,
hard cider. The giants named it Guinness. Cloudless swill. And in ale it's known as St. Pauli's Girl Non-Alcoholic. Shitong Song calls it
Smirnoff.
Smirnoff. He calls it Smirnoff ass.
Thor says.
I've never known one person to be the mind of so much ancient wisdom.
He smiled at his guest, and a long, slow smile. And he slowly nodded his head.
I like to imagine a 5-minute long slow smile, just slowly, silently.
He slowly nodded his head and then said,
But your own tongue has trapped you, Elvis. The sun's rays arrest you.
The dwarf whirled around, but it was already too late.
Son of a bitch.
Thor gloated.
The sun's rays arrest you and they turn you into stone. And now the sun shines in my hall once again, and no one shall bang my hot daughter.
The end. There you go. Sorry, I know it was a long 4, but the next one's even longer.
That's what she said.
Sorry.
It was a long 4. No one's ever said that before.
It's just gonna get longer.
It's a grower, not a shower.
Exactly.
Yeah, hope you folks enjoyed that. Hope you had fun. Had some fun times. I know we sure as shit did.
Yes.
Yeah, that was from the Prose Edda.
You can find the stories.
You can find the stories in the book The Norse Myths, introduced and retold by Kevin Crossley Holland. But the prose goes way back to I think 1200, 1100 AD. Some shit.
All right, but I ain't gonna translate that shit.
Translated from
Someone else
Old
did.
English. To the horn, and I said, Pippy Dick, Pippy Dick.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
And
Oh, a
fritters.
strudel, sir. Thank you.
I want pumpkin pie now.
I wanted a strudel. Yeah, we're caught in a battle. Pumpkin strudel? Huh? Yeah. Well, yeah, hope you folks enjoyed. Have a good night.
Yeah, have a great night.
We'll see you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, review. Tell your friends.
Yes.
Tell your friends. Yeah.
Buy some merchandise for us.
Buy some merchandise. Check out our merch shop.
Most of the proceeds go to us.
They do. They go to us trying to make the podcast better.
You help me get formula.
Yeah. Formula, more books, all the stuff
books.
needed. All that chronic weed we be smoking. Check it out. teespring.com. teespring.com/high-mythology-merch. Look at our whole merch store.
There's a lot of stuff on
There's
there.
a lot of stuff. We have a
Lot of
bunch of
stuff.
different designs, bunch of different cool stuff.
And
But
more
check it out.
coming soon.
Yeah. And if you get it, send us a picture. We'll put it up on the internet.
Hell yeah,
We'll be like, hey, we'll
look
give
how
you a
good
shout
it
out.
looks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah. Good night, everybody.
Good night.